Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on DCTV and the Arrowverse or the CWverse or the Superverse, whatever it's called now or whatever the main one's called. We're discussing that type of stuff. Now, yeah, we're in a weird and just sort of like what's the word? Like unclear, sort of unclear time and space of DCTV on the CW, or more commonly referred to in the past as the Arrowverse, even if something necessarily wasn't on the same Earth as like Flash, Arrow, and stuff like that. This, of course, being the case due to the news being confirmed in the Season 2 finale of Superman and Lois that The Flash is now the last remaining Arrowverse show, or Earth set on Earth, not Earth set, but show set on Earth Prime. Of course, it's not the only DC show left because we have Superman and Lois, because that was the one that actually revealed that information. And we, of course, also have Stargirl, which had its Season 3 premiere in late August. Then we, of course, have Gotham Knights, a new show coming out around the same time as The Flash Season 9 and Superman and Lois Season 3. And then Justice U, the John Diggle spin-off, is still in active development and will probably be coming our way at the end of next year if it keeps moving along in that development stage. And I think the actual separation of the Earths makes it even more likely because they would really want a DC show that has a familiar face but still allows them to play around in this new world or new Earth or new sandbox. Now, of course, one of the staples, for the Arrowverse since it became more than just one show, which happened when The Flash premiered back in 2014, is crossovers, whether it's between two shows or 6 or 7 or whatever the largest amount of shows was when that was the largest amount, you know what I mean? But with this breaking off from the Arrowverse, with only The Flash remaining as the only show on Earth Prime, what happens with the crossover stuff? Well, Todd Helbing, the showrunner of Superman and Lois, gave us some insight, which of course is going to spark a debate, which is what this video is centered around. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know your opinions on this in the comment section down below, and which avenue or direction you think they should go in regards to this, specific topic in regards to crossovers. I'm very curious to see where people would want to go with it, because I'm sure that it won't be like a general consensus or general thought as to the one way they should go. I'm pretty sure it's going to be varied. But yeah, let me know all that in the comment section down below. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, want to show support, everything like that, why not drop a like on the video to do all that. So this this quote section comes from an interview with Todd Helbing with Looper.com. They were the ones that got this exclusive quote, even though it was sort of talked about, but they got probably the best combination of it all. So yeah, Looper.com. So the full article link will be in the description down below, but it's nothing new compared to the other interviews outside of this quote. So, yeah. With General Lane's speech there about Superman being the only hero, it might be a little tricky to do crossovers in the way that we've done them historically. I don't know. What's going to happen is, if there's an opportunity, I love Grant. Grant's a friend. I have connections to that show, as in The Flash. But I would say if there is one, Flash would probably be my first call. It's a little tricky now to do all this, but we'll see what happens. That version of what we did is probably done because we don't have all those characters anymore from those shows. All the actors are going to go on and do different projects, or life is going to make them busy. It's hard to speculate other than there's still comic book shows. There are guests in comic book shows all the time. I don't know if we'll have exactly the same thing. It's hard to perceive what could happen in the superhero genre, and that quote was sort of more in reference to, I guess, the actual actors coming back to play the character they played in the Arrowverse, or whether it be a recast or something like that. So with the current obstacles that have all of a sudden, been put up in regards to these crossovers, just after the whole COVID protocols obstacle, started to come down, what is the fate of the CW DC crossover in the short term? Not the Arrowverse crossover, but DC shows crossing over on the CW. What's the fate of that in the short term? So I don't know, over the next year or so, maybe next year or two, but I'll just say next 12 months roughly. Well, I've got 4 options or possibilities, whichever way you want to word them, as to how things could play out to allow crossovers to happen despite the separation of Earths, which of course, fans want to see the crossovers. It's not like the main reason they'll watch, Superman and Lois, but if there's a possibility for Superman and Lois to cross over with something else, they're going to take it, especially if it doesn't impact the main story or the show as a whole. So the first thing is the clear one, which most people will be thinking. That's The Flash has the ability to travel the multiverse if he knows it there. So why not do that? Now, the reason that people might not, or they might have an excuse for it not to happen, or even, Todd Helbing, I think it might have referenced this or maybe it was someone else. I can't remember specifically who it was. It might have been David Ramsey, but it's to avoid confusion between the universes and say like, this was a thing that I saw people say when Superman and Lois sort of started, or at least got into season 2. It's like, well, you know, you're not having these references and everything. Then people have to go, oh, well, I don't get that reference. I have to go watch 8 seasons of Arrow, or, you know, 8 seasons of The Flash, or 6 seasons of Supergirl, or something like that to get that reference. But that sort of is contradicted because, or at least that thought line, because they use Diggle as like some big, oh damn moment, you know, both in season 1 and season 2. So that's sort of, there's a contradiction there in regards to that logic. Like, I'm sure that anyone that watches Superman and Lois, whether it's now or in like 3 or 4 years from now and watching like season 3 potentially, would still know who the Flash is. You don't have to learn everything about that show. And also these two heroes, you know, this Superman and, you know, this Flash wouldn't have met before. It's not like, oh, remember that time we had pizza? It's like, no, Barry, I'm a different Superman. You're talking to the wrong one. So they wouldn't talk about that type of stuff. So there's no real history there to constantly reference or anything like that. So I don't think you'd really trip over any sort of, not even just continuity things, but people having to go back and watch something to understand it, because there's no history with these characters anyway in regards to at least these multiverse versions. So I think the Flash traveling the multiverse is the option that is the easiest one to make something happen, at least between Superman and Lois and the Flash, or the Flash and Superman and Lois's Earth, because there might be other characters that are introduced before this happens. The next option is just Superman and Lois crossovers with just the next era in possible DC TV shows like Justice U and Gotham Knights and whatever else possibly comes next. I think in regards to if they're like legitimately like, we don't want anything to do with the Arrowverse anymore, we want that to just wane off and then we can do our own thing, this is the one they'd probably go with. I think this is probably the one they would go with. But it also depends on how Gotham Knights is received, whether Justice U actually happens, the actual like central things of the possible new shows on this earth. They're all factors that play into it. So I think this is probably the most likely one in regards to maybe what they're planning going forward, but it's the one that could have the most issues that come up, which make them not want to do it. If that makes sense, because Gotham Knights could come out, not be well received, they scrap that. Justice U could come out, maybe it doesn't work with crossing over with Superman and Lois, at least right at the beginning. They have to wait a few seasons. That puts a big halt on any sort of crossover thing. So it's the most likely one in regards to where they're planning, but as I said, it's probably got the most possible errors in it. Next up, it's another Superman and Lois sort of crossover, but maybe it's just, you know, crossovers within the actual Superman and Lois show. So it's just characters coming in that, you know, are familiar, but they play a role into the actual story of Superman and Lois and what's going on in that season, which would lead into, you know, these are mainly going to be doppelgangers of Arrowverse characters. We have an example of it already, I guess 2 already, with both Diggle and Lucy Lane. And they can, you know, I guess it's mainly in regards to Diggle, they can play into things and be very similar to how we know them on Earth Prime, or how we knew them on Earth Prime, but then play into the story of, you know, what's going on and whatever this Earth's number is. I'm sure they'll give it the Earth a number next season, maybe, because I think people are curious in regards to what the number is. But this would allow them to do interesting and like almost like Elseworlds takes on characters. Like they could have Barry Allen, sort of like what we saw on Earth 2 in the Flash season 2. Like they could have Barry Allen show up, but maybe he's not the Flash, or maybe he is someone that has powers but never really came out as a superhero because maybe there's like a, I don't know, maybe she didn't want to, whatever they want to do, but they could do certain things along those lines. Like we know Oliver Queen's apparently meant to be dead, but they could just retcon that and have him show up and it could beat Stephen Amell. Ray Palmer, you know, they could do a lot of different things in regards to doppelgangers and give them a bit of like an alternate take and maybe a bit of a different tone that they want to use on Superman and Lois and reinvent them a bit if they want to do that. I think that'd actually be really cool. I think in regards to a longevity thing, that's probably the coolest one. But yeah, people might prefer the multiverse one, but I think in regards to longevity, that just seems like the coolest one to do. And the final one is really taking out Superman and Lois as a show, which is weird because that's sort of like the, you know, where this conversation started, but it's similar to what we just talked about then with, you know, crossovers within Superman and Lois. Well, crossovers within the Flash, like we sort of had with Armageddon, with just Earth Prime characters, but we could get like the Earth Prime Superman and Lois if the schedule is there to include them. Now, this is probably like the least exciting one, and also probably just be a bit like bittersweet, if not maybe fuel some anger, just because if you have the Earth Prime versions of those characters show up anyway, that might just be a bit angry. But it is another option. It's definitely not the one I would put towards the top. I'd probably put it above the crossovers with the next era in possible DC TV shows like Justice You and Gotham. I'd probably put the Flash crossovers above that, but it wouldn't go above the other two that we mentioned previously. But in regards to this, what is the most likely option in my opinion in regards to what do I think they will do? The one I would probably want the most is, in the short term, like over the next year, the Flash can travel the multiverse. I think that's the obvious one, just on the short term. But in regards to the one that I'd be pretty happy with, and in regards to like a long-term thing as well, I think it's those crossovers within Superman and Lois as a show, maybe even other shows as well, but just, I guess at this point in the conversation, just Superman and Lois as a show with doppelgangers of Arrowverse characters like we've seen with Diggle. Now, the likelihood of any of these happening, I think, is probably less than 50%. I think the most likely thing is that they're not even focusing on crossovers in this short term, which could lead to the end of the crossover as a whole in any sort of major way. Like, you won't get any big, Crisis or Elseworlds or any of those type of things again. They'll like be mini one episode crossover things, which is disappointing just because of how exciting they used to be in the past. And it feels like a weird creative decision. It's because it's not like the HBO Max DC stuff is raging or crosses over in itself. Like, that was a really special thing with the CW stuff or the Arrowverse stuff, and they're sort of taking it away really quickly, and at a weird point as well, because now we're past this whole COVID stage where these crossovers could happen easily. But I don't know, maybe we're in for a surprise. I'm not too sure, but fingers crossed they figure out some way, because there's no point having a connected universe if you don't connect. I think these crossovers are sort of needed to push that forward and sort of engage fans and connect fans to all the shows as well. So we'll wait and see. But I'd be happy with any of these options I mentioned before. Though I think the two top ones are the Flash traveling the multiverse and just like the doppelgangers crossing over into Superman and Lois as a show. But we'll wait and see. Maybe we'll get some news leading into the new seasons. That's for us to wait and find out. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like and show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on everything we went over. I'm always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.